Have you ever felt that life quietly moved forward, and somehow you did not? It is a heavy, unspoken thought. You look around, and the world feels louder. It feels faster. It feels relentlessly younger. You have not stopped trying. You have not lacked discipline. But the years have unfolded in ways you never expected. And in the quiet, solitary moments of the night, a question crosses your mind: have I been left behind? If that thought has ever kept you awake, staring into the dark, stay with me. This message is for you. There is a moment in life that no one prepares you for. It is not dramatic. It does not arrive with the sound of alarms or a sudden crash. It comes quietly. Perhaps it arrives after a retirement you worked decades for, only to find the silence deafening. Perhaps it comes after your children leave home, and the house feels too large, too still. Perhaps it follows a business that failed, or a position you held for decades that was suddenly handed to someone a decade your junior. You wake up one morning and realize the role you once played is no longer needed in the exact same way. That realization can feel incredibly heavy. It can feel heavier than failure. It feels like fading. We are conditioned by a society that worships momentum. We are told to keep climbing, keep building, keep accelerating. But what happens when the mountain has been climbed? Or when the path you were on suddenly vanishes? You begin to feel the fear of irrelevance. At this stage of your life, the true fear is not competition. It is the fear that the world no longer asks for your voice. You fear your experience is outdated. You see new technology, new languages, new ideas moving at breakneck speed. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet whisper asks, "Did I miss my moment?" But listen carefully. That whisper is not the truth. It is comparison. And comparison is the absolute thief of your dignity. Stay until the end, because this might change how you see your life. The ancient Stoics knew this well. They understood that the passage of time is a natural law, entirely outside of our control. Seneca, a man who saw the dizzying heights of power and the crushing depths of exile, issued a warning that rings through the centuries: we suffer more in imagination than in reality. The idea that you are behind is simply a story. It is a narrative constructed by a culture that values speed over substance. But true life, the philosophical life, has never been about speed. It has always been about depth. You are carrying the weight of an invisible, fabricated timeline. Society handed you a script: success by 30, security by 40, stability by 50. But who wrote that script? Who decided the exact pace at which a human soul must ripen? Nature does not rush. Look at the mountains. They do not compare their peaks to the hills. The ocean does not apologize for the slow, methodical rhythm of its tides. You are not late. You have not missed the train. You are simply entering a different season. And seasons are not mistakes. They are transitions. When you were young, your season was about expansion. You were building your foundation. You were competing. You were proving yourself to a world that demanded your sweat and your labor. But a tree in spring grows rapidly, pushing its branches desperately toward the sun. When autumn arrives, it does not panic because the rapid growth has stopped. It does something much more profound. It sheds what is no longer necessary. It deepens its roots. It prepares quietly for the winter. Each season has its own unique dignity, and so do you. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man on earth, wrote in his private journal to remind himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Think deeply about that. You do not have power over the outside events of the modern world. You do not have power over time. You do not have power over aging, but you have absolute power over your mind. And your mind is the exact place where the feeling of being left behind begins. If the feeling was born there, it can be dismantled there. To feel left behind is to mistakenly believe that your value is forever tied to your previous speed. It is to believe that because you are no longer running the same frantic race, you have lost the right to exist purposefully, but you have merely outgrown the old race. This stage of life invites something vastly different, something far richer than the chaotic scrambling of youth. It invites reflection. It invites wisdom. It invites intentionality. You are transitioning from the soldier who fights the battles to the general who understands the war. Listen to the silence. Let it settle in your mind. We suffer from a profound illusion. We look at our graying hair. We look at the changing calendars. We look at the younger generation sprinting past us, and we mourn. We mourn because we mistake transformation for loss. When you strip away the titles, the job descriptions, and the frantic energy of your youth, what is left, you might feel empty. You might feel as though you have been discarded by a world that only values the new. But I want you to look closer at that emptiness. It is not a void. It is a clearing. Transformation often feels like loss before it feels like purpose. You are standing in the discomfort of shedding an old skin. The ego screams when it is no longer the center of attention. It panics when it is no longer moving at a breakneck speed. It tells you that if you are not rushing, you are dying. But the Stoic knows that true power is never rushed. True power is perfectly still. Marcus Aurelius once observed the relentless nature of existence, noting that time is like a river made up of the events which happen, and a violent stream. We spend our youth trying to swim faster than the river. We exhaust ourselves fighting the current, trying to prove our strength, trying to stay ahead of everyone else. But as you enter this new season of life, you are no longer required to fight the water. You are being invited to become the riverbed. Let the water rush. Let the world be loud. Let the youth exhaust themselves in the violent stream. You do not need to keep up with them, because meaning is not created by speed. It is created by experience. Think of the roles that actually sustain humanity. The grandparent becomes the anchor of the family precisely when youth becomes restless and adrift. Writers and thinkers often find their strongest, most resonant voice only after decades of living, after their hearts have been broken, mended, and broken again. Consider this profound truth: many of the most meaningful contributions in history were made later in life. You look at your age and you see a door closing, but your story is not ending. It is transforming. You are not outdated, and you are not too late. You have simply graduated from the shallow waters of ambition into the deep ocean of wisdom. You are in a season that requires depth over noise, and depth takes time. Let us strike again at the root of your anxiety. Why does the feeling of being left behind cause such a tightening in your chest? It is because you are living in two places that do not exist. You are living in the ghost of your past, longing for the relevance and energy you once had, and you are living in a phantom future, terrified of becoming invisible. You have abandoned the only place where you actually reside, the present moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote a brilliant, razor-sharp reminder to himself when he felt the weight of time pressing down on him. He reminded himself that no man loses any other life than this which he now lives, nor lives any other than this which he now loses. You cannot be left behind, because there is nowhere else to be. There is no timeline to fall off of. There is only right here, right now, this exact breath, this exact heartbeat. If you bring your mind back to the present second, the concept of being behind evaporates. It cannot survive in the present. It is a ghost that only haunts you when you look away from the reality of now. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that life is like a play, and we do not get to choose our roles. The director, nature, God. The universe assigns the parts. Some play the rich man, some the beggar, some the young hero, and some the aging elder. Your duty is not to demand a different role, nor is it to cling desperately to a role you played in the previous act. Your only duty is to play your current role beautifully, with dignity and grace. When you mourn the loss of your youth, or the career you used to have, or the status you once held, you are arguing with the director. You are standing on stage in the third act, refusing to speak your lines because you want to perform the first act again. It is a tragedy of your own making. There is one more thing you need to understand. Accept the season you are in. Embrace the lines you have been given. This is the phase of life where you are called to master your own mind. When you were younger, your challenges were external, building a career, raising a family, acquiring property. But now, the battlefield has moved inward. The challenge is no longer to conquer the world, but to conquer your own judgments. You must look at the younger, faster world and feel absolutely no envy. You must observe the constant changes of society, the new technologies, the shifting cultures, and remind yourself that the nature of the universe loves nothing so much as to change the things which are, to make new things like them. It is just the turning of the wheel. It has happened 1,000 times before, and it will happen 1,000 times again. You are a witness to the grand, eternal cycle. There is a supreme elegance in a person who ages without bitterness. There is an unmatched power in someone who does not need to prove their relevance, who does not need to shout to be heard. Their presence alone commands respect because they have ceased fighting reality. They have accepted their fate, and in doing so, they have become invincible. There is a powerful truth rarely discussed in our modern obsession with youth and early achievement. We celebrate the prodigy, the young billionaire, the 20-something visionary, and in doing so, we cast a shadow over the rest of the human lifespan. But if you look closely at the architecture of human history, you will see something entirely different. Many of the most meaningful contributions in history were made later in life. Society tells you that your value peaks when your physical energy is at its highest. But the Stoic philosophers understood that the true peak of human existence is the summit of reason. and reason requires the slow, methodical seasoning of time. Grandparents become the steadfast anchors of families precisely when youth becomes restless and chaotic. Writers and thinkers often find their strongest, most resonant voice only after decades of living, after enduring the triumphs and tragedies that give words their weight. Why? Because meaning is not created by speed. It is created by experience. When you feel left behind, you are measuring your life by the metric of velocity. You are looking at how fast others are moving, how quickly they are acquiring titles, wealth, or attention. But you are no longer in the phase of life where velocity matters. You are in the phase where trajectory and depth are everything. Your story is not ending. It is transforming. And you must remember this crucial law of nature: transformation often feels like loss before it feels like purpose. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius observed that any person who has reached 40 years of age, provided they have any understanding at all, has in a manner seen all that has been and all that will ever be. Think about the profound liberation in that statement. You have seen the cycles. You know that the new political scandal is just an echo of the old one. You know that the shiny new technology is just a different tool for the same human desires. You know that the frantic pursuit of status always ends in the same hollow silence. Because you have seen the wheel turn, you no longer need to be mesmerized by its spinning. The younger generation is running frantically on a treadmill, terrified of missing out. You have the luxury, the supreme, hard-earned luxury of stepping off. You are not left behind. You have simply stopped running in circles. Seneca, writing in his later years, advised his friend to focus on the mind. He told him that one's exercise should be such that neither cold nor heat will hamper it, nor even old age, and urged him to tend to the good that gets better with time. What is the good that gets better with time? It is not your physical stamina. It is not your ability to work 80-hour weeks. It is not your relevance in the ever-shifting landscape of pop culture. The good that gets better with time is your character. It is your judgment. It is your ability to look at a chaotic world and remain perfectly tranquil. When you were younger, you likely suffered from the illusion that if you just achieved enough, you would finally be secure. You thought that if you built the right business, secured the right title, or saved the right amount of money, the anxiety would stop. But life has taught you the hard Stoic lesson: security is never found outside of yourself. Externals are fragile. Businesses fail. Health wavers. Markets crash. The children you raised step out into the world and leave your home quiet. If your identity is tied entirely to those external roles, of course you feel left behind when those roles shift. But you are not your job. You are not your bank account. You are not even your role as a provider or a parent. You are the rational, guiding faculty within you, what the Stoics called the hegemonikon. This is the season of your life to fortify that inner citadel, to stop seeking approval from a world that is distracted and start seeking alignment with your own deepest principles. You feel left behind because you are still waiting for the world's applause. But the world's applause is fickle and meaningless. You must reach a point where your own honesty and good nature will content you. where you do not need the validation of the crowd to know that your life has meaning. If you are alive, you have a purpose. The Stoic believes that every person is a part of the grand design of the universe, and you have not been discarded. You are simply being reassigned. Your new assignment requires less physical labor and more philosophical labor. It requires you to be a beacon of stability in a society that has lost its mind. It requires you to demonstrate what it looks like to age with grace, without bitterness, without clinging desperately to a youth that has naturally passed. Stop apologizing for your age. Stop feeling that you must compete with the frenetic energy of the young. Let them have their noise. You have the silence. Let them have their speed. You have the depth. There is one final strike at the ego that we must make. It is the ultimate equalizer, and it is the key to unlocking the chains of feeling left behind. You look at the time you have spent, and you mourn the years. You count the days that have passed and feel a sense of scarcity, a creeping panic that the hourglass is almost empty. But the Stoics viewed time through a fundamentally different, razor-sharp lens. Marcus Aurelius, writing in the quiet solitude of his military tent, penned a thought that has the power to instantly shatter the illusion of being too late. Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly. Imagine, for just a moment, that your life ended yesterday. The story concluded. The race finished. If that were true, then today, this exact moment, this breath you are taking right now is not a continuation of a race you are losing. It is a gift. It is bonus time. You cannot be behind in a life that has already been given back to you as a completely unearned reward. When you shift your perspective in this way, the desperate need to catch up simply vanishes. The anxiety of comparison evaporates. You realize that the longest living person and the person who dies the soonest both lose exactly the same thing, the present moment, because the present is the only thing any of us truly possesses. You cannot lose the past because it is already gone. You cannot lose the future because it is not yours yet. You only have now. Why are you poisoning your now with the bitter resentment of a past you cannot change and a future you cannot control? When the feeling of being left behind threatens to consume you, the Stoics invite you to practice what is known as the view from above. You feel inadequate because you are looking closely at the people immediately around you. You are looking at your neighbor's new car, your former colleague's promotion, the youthful faces staring back at you from the digital screens of our modern age. You are trapped in a microscopic frame of reference. Zoom out. Look at the whole earth. It is but a point, a tiny nook in the vastness of the cosmos. How few are the people on it, and what kind of people are they whose approval you so desperately seek? They are just like you, frightened, temporary, and flawed. Look at the endless generations that came before us, who fought and built and worried and wept, and eventually were swallowed by the same earth we walk upon. Look at the generations that will follow, who will inherit our ruins and repeat our exact same anxieties. The events of life are like the heaps of sand piled upon one another, where the new sand quickly hides what came before it. In the grand, sweeping theater of eternity, the difference between the person who achieved massive financial success at age 30 And the person who found quiet peace at age 60 is absolutely zero. The universe does not recognize our artificial timelines. The cosmos does not care about your resume. So why do you? You are holding yourself to the standards of a society that is fundamentally lost. You are judging your profound, complex, deeply personal journey by the metrics of a culture that values shiny surfaces over solid foundations. Seneca wrote to his friend with a beautiful, liberating truth about the later stages of life. He said, "Let us cherish and love old age, for it is full of pleasure if one knows how to use it." He understood that there is a unique, exquisite comfort in finally tiring out one's appetites, in no longer being a slave to the endless, exhausting treadmill of desire. When you are young, you are tortured by ambition. You are tortured by lust. You are tortured by the desperate need to become someone. But as you age, if you are wise, those chains begin to rust and break. The desires fade. The need to impress falls away. Do not look at this fading of desire as a loss of vitality. Look at it as the ultimate liberation. You are finally free. A life is long if it is full, and it is full only when the mind bestows on itself the goodness that is proper to it. You have not been left behind. You have been granted the supreme opportunity to turn inward, to stop explaining yourself, to stop competing, to pull up the drawbridge and retreat into your inner citadel. In this space, there is no younger or older. There is no faster or slower. There is only the quality of your character. There is only the gentleness with which you treat others, the courage with which you face your physical decline, and the profound, unshakable peace you cultivate in your own soul. Let the world rush by. Let them have the noise. Let them exhaust themselves in the violent stream of ambition. You have done your time in the rapids. Now, you belong to the deep, still waters. Your value does not come from what you produce for the marketplace anymore. Your value comes from what you are, a beacon of tranquility, a testament to survival, a quiet observer of the beautiful, tragic, fleeting festival of human existence. Tonight, when you lay your head upon your pillow, I want you to actively release the burden of your own timeline. Release the phantom version of yourself that you think you were supposed to be. Forgive yourself for the detours, the failures, the years you feel you wasted. They were not wasted. They were the exact curriculum you needed to arrive at this very moment of awakening. You are not late. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Breathe in the quiet freedom of your current season. Let the ego die its necessary death, and let your true, enduring spirit step forward into the light. If this journey brought peace to your mind today, please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, and sharing this message with someone who might be quietly carrying the heavy burden of feeling left behind. Your support allows us to continue translating these ancient, life-saving truths for the modern soul. May you walk through this new season of your life with unshakable grace. I wish you profound health, enduring luck, deep peace, and true happiness. Until next time, embrace the season you are in. See you next video.